Welcome to Shadeinthecity. I'm your girl Treese, and we're here to go beyond the gates, season 1, episode 49. I told y'all I was gonna spend the block. I just had to hit my hair appointment, and then I'd be back. So I appreciate y'all being patient with me. Y'all getting a, you know, midnight Saturday special more than likely by the time this drops. But yeah, y'all. So yeah, if you have not already, all my BTG Shade Squad, please make sure you hit the like button. And if you have not already, please keep subscribing, y'all. Um, Again, I just want to say how grateful I am for the support, guys. I looked down at my phone before I got up here and we literally just hit 1,700 subscribers. So thank you, guys. It really means a lot to us, me and my sis. But, you know, we be tired. We got real life stuff. We got real life jobs. And to come up here, entertain y'all, and know that you're watching, you're in the comments, you're responding. It absolutely means a lot and it makes it worth it for us, honestly. So I just want to thank you and shout out to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day if you are a mother. So yeah, y'all. Let's go ahead get into this episode. I'm gonna say if I had to rate it, I would probably give it maybe in the beginning, like halfway through, I would have given it a 7. By the ending, I was like, it's an 8.5, borderline on a 9. But I'd love to know your thoughts. So let's jump right into this recap, y'all. And like I said, thank you, guys. And yeah, let's get shady, y'all. All right, y'all. So first announcements I have to give. I know I didn't ask for the song this episode because I felt like it was given. And so shout out to Elaine. Elaine had commented in episode 47 when I asked for a song, and she absolutely dropped in the comments and said, "Stranger in my house." And I literally was tickled when Nicole said she feels like there's a stranger in her house. So shout out to you, Elaine. You win the award for this episode because I don't think that anybody can top that. Okay, so shout out to you, Elaine. Also, shout out to our new members, Mimi and Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining Shade Squad. Okay, so yeah, y'all. All right, we see Naomi. That's how the episode opens. And Naomi got a new. I said, okay, Naomi, new too, new you. I understand, girl. But she's trying to find a shelter for June to go to, but they have no beds available. June wants to go back to Tent City, as Jacob calls it. And she gets off the phone and lets Jacob know she didn't find anything. So he's like, well, you're a Dupree, boo-boo. So this is when you need to use that to your advantage. And Naomi's like, well, I don't like doing that, Jacob. And so June chimes in and she's like, well, I really don't like lawyers, but what I really hate is people who pull strings. Okay. And so Naomi says, you know what? I'm going to make one more phone call, but tells June, like my other clients told you, I never quit. All right. So yeah, that's and I'm gonna be honest with you, literally this whole, and I think this is why I rated it, like started it off at a 7, because I was irritated. I said, please do not let them take this woman in their house. Please do not did anybody else feel that way? Because as soon as I watched that first scene, I said, this is where this is headed. This is where this is headed. And I don't think it's cute. I don't want it. Take it back. No. Vernon returns after letting, Anita have her one-on-one with Nicole. And so, Anita gets up and gives them some time alone. And so Nicole is like, I need to check on Matt, Kat, and Martin, which I ain't even gonna hold you. I don't know if anybody else felt this way, but like, I understand she was going through it. And I guess how many days has it been? Maybe 1 or 2 now since the wedding anniversary party, or maybe it's only been 1. But it just feels to me that, like, yeah, once I'm able to get up and get myself together and get dressed, yeah, I'm gonna reach out. Yeah, they grown, but yeah, I'm gonna call my kids. I'm gonna just make sure y'all good, because not only was my life destroyed, but so was yours. Am I missing something? Y'all let me know, and I know y'all will, but y'all let me know in the comments. I just thought that was kind of weird. Um, and so Vernon tells her, "Look, don't worry about it. I'll check on him." So he's like, "Well, how are you holding up?" And Nicole responds by a thread and said, I basically wouldn't be holding on if it wasn't, for you and mama." So Vernon is still consoling Nicole, who says that, she's numb and she can't feel anything. And so Vernon tells her that, that's her body protecting herself. I love this scene. I loved this scene between Vernon and Nicole. It was like the sweetest daddy daughter scene. I loved it. I loved it. I don't know if it, like, I literally almost, like, literally, maybe it's just the emotional Pisces in me, but I literally almost teared up. I didn't cry, but I felt it was getting a little mushy. It was getting a little mushy up there in the corner. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it was a really cute moment. And or just very sincere and sweet. And so Vernon tells her, basically it's her body protecting herself. And at a certain point, she will come out of the shock and all the emotions are basically going to come flooding in. So Nicole isn't looking forward to that. But Vernon reassures her, you got a family that loves you and we got your back. He tells her, cry, scream, whatever your heart tells you to do. And he's like, I promise to never let you fall. Y'all, I was like, it was so sweet. It was such a cute moment. All right. Moving on to Bill. He's explaining to Danny that he thought that he had handled Five Guys, Dana, but says he's not responsible for Crazy. So Danny is upset that he didn't tell her because they were married at the time and that was her family. And Bill's like, I made a judgment call and says, if you remember, at one point in time, they were my family as well. So, and he said, look, Ted made a mistake. He was still madly in love. And I didn't expect it. Nobody expected it to come back and haunt him. And Bill says, I go above and beyond to protect, your family from themselves. And so Danny doesn't believe that because Bill's history is obviously being selfish and only caring about himself. And so Danny reminds him that he wouldn't be Bill Hamilton without riding her family's name. His firm otherwise would be chasing ambulances or hanging out in the ICU. And I said, I always love a good read, but you know what though? Bill got a good clap back. Bill always, for the most part, got a good clap back. So Bill wants to know, what is your point? And so he's like, what, are you trying to make me see the error of my ways? And Danny's like, maybe. So Bill tells her, look, I thought you didn't care about me anymore. And so she's like, you're just so arrogant and self-serving. And Bill isn't fazed by this because, he's heard that from her before. So Danny wants to understand the story. And so she runs through the version of what she knows. Oh, so Ted had an affair, knocked his side piece up. And yeah, and you helped him cover it up, basically. And so Bill said, look, first of all, I don't need to explain anything to you, but yeah, that's what happened. And this was another thing that kind of disturbed me as well this episode, because I was kind of like Naomi and everybody else. Bill don't care, girl. And then he lets her know, like, look, yeah, that's what went down, and Ted isn't as perfect as y'all thought. So Danny wants to know, well, what other secrets do you know about my family that can come out and destroy our lives? So she questions if Bill even has a conscience, and Bill has to remind her he didn't force Leslie into Ted's bed. And I said, Danny 2, Bill 1. It's a close match. It's a close match here. Okay. And Bill lets Danny know if her family would stop coming to him with their mess, he wouldn't need to clean it up. So he says that the Duprees use him when they get their hands dirty so they can remain clean. And then he goes on to say that, it was made clear to him when he, joined the family that he was supposed to fulfill a certain role. And if she has an issue with it, she needs to take it up with the ringmasters, Anita and Vernon. And I said, oop, oop. Because I believe I think take that nugget and put it in your basket. They're telling us something. All right, so let's move over to Martin, who comes from the gym, and he meets Smitty at Uptowns. They've told the kids what happened, and the kids are processing, and they just hope the grandparents ain't split up for good. Okay. Martin mentions that Naomi called looking for assistance in finding a house for June. He was able to call one of his colleagues that arrange, hotel rooms for the unhoused, and um, Martin says that he's supposed to be setting up, or his commission is supposed to be setting up a meeting to make sure that the program is running smoothly. So Smitty doesn't seem too enthused, and Martin's like, "Well, why you got that look on your face? Like, what is it?" So finally, Smitty reveals to Martin that he knows the hotel Ted is staying in, but Vernon asked him not to say anything to Martin. So Kat walks in, and she's just looking from the outside. She's not overhearing, and Martin doesn't like that everyone is keeping his father's location away from him like he's some type of savage. And I said, well, I think they don't want any more bodies. They don't want you to catch any more bodies, Martin. I think that's what's happening. I think they feel like they have, yeah, you might be a savage. Serial savage. We'll say it like that. A serial savage, okay? So yeah, no. They're worried about you. Smitty says that his reaction is why basically they didn't want to know. So Martin makes it clear that Smitty is not allowed to go behind his back, making arrangements with his family. And I honestly feel like that was more of trauma also, knowing that Bill was a part of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like that was kind of a theme, like this whole episode. Like everybody's like, yeah, nah, we don't, we don't trust the outsiders. We can only trust the family. We don't trust these outsiders no more, even if we married to them. Martin gets up and he walks away screaming about how he's not a child, even though he was acting like one at the moment. And Smitty spots Kat, and then they just kind of exchange glances at that point. So Naomi returns to the table with Jacob and lets him know that Martin has was able to connect her with someone, and she found a hotel room for June. June isn't excited at all and reiterates that she's fine where she is under the underpass. Naomi said that she can't concentrate on her case if she's worried about her safety. And June, of course, is like, no, I can take care of myself. And Jacob was like, well, you taking care of yourself got you ended up at the precinct. And so finally she agrees. And so Jacob takes her over there and leaves Naomi there so she can get some work done. Ted is at the hotel and he gets a visit from Andre, who shows up with a bottle and an ear to listen, okay? He asks, how things went at work, and Ted talks about how he had a rough day. All his colleagues who attended the party gave him looks because, gave him evil looks because they love and adore Nicole. And that's everyone. So Andre asks if there's anything he can do, and Ted tells him if he can convince Nicole that he's still the man she married, that would be helpful. And Andre says, I'll try, but I don't know if she's going to listen. So Ted knows he put everyone in a terrible position, and he says, he'll regret that for the rest of his life. Nicole, then we jump back over to Vernon and Nicole tells Vernon that, she used to think Ted was the closest thing to her dad. And she starts to get emotional about, how she could have been so wrong. Anita interrupts and tells her, look, you better stop. And she said, I can let you trash Ted and Leslie's tramp ass all day. But what you won't do is criticize my daughter, not even if it's you. I said, you better, Anita. And she said, you ain't do nothing but love your husband. And what he did with that was his fault. Cole says she felt adrift and things were strange and unfamiliar. But says, being there, she feels secure and loved, and she just wishes she could stay there forever. However, Nicole decides that it is time to go home and start standing on her own 2 feet again. After she leaves, Anita and Vernon, although she tells Vernon, although I know you live by the code of nonviolence and all that, I wish Ted could get a good old butt whooping at this point. And, they both agree they could kick Ted's ass. So Kat, after Martin runs out upset, goes over to Smitty and wants to know why Martin is all upset. And so Smitty explained that he's mad because of what Vernon asked of him. And Kat seems surprised that her grandfather thinks Martin would harm their father. And I don't know why, but for some reason that sent off alarm bells to me. I mean, nothing happened, but at first I was like, oh my God. is Martin really about to catch another body and it is about to be his daddy? And I was like, how are we gonna get rid of the old Ted when we got a new Ted coming? I was going through it, y'all. I was going through it. So Smitty basically explains that, what happened and why he's upset because of the whole Vernon situation. And he admits that, maybe we're just too overprotective. And he's like, maybe I should just stay out of y'all family business. And Kat is kind of silent. And so he's like, oh, are you saying you agree? And Kat tells him, she's like, look, I thought you knew how to swerve Martin when he's being extra, and says that you're a better husband than Martin deserves. Now, I will admit, I'm not, now, let me say this. I am not sitting here saying I am Team Smitty by any means. But if you roll back the beautiful bean footage, so I say about first week of Beyond the Gates, I gave Smitty a really, really hard time. I really did. And then by week 2, I realized that Martin was the problem. Not saying Smitty ain't still a little sneaky Smitty, but I realized Martin was the problem. Marty was the problem, okay? So anyway, she tells him he's a loved and valued family member, and he always will be. And if they split up, they would still keep Smitty. So Smitty notices, that the situation with her parents has really rocked Kat, and she's like, look, I'm here for you, sister-in-law, whenever you need me. And so then she gets an email, something about shipping being delayed. And so she rushes out only to run into Tomas, because remember, they were supposed to meet up later. And so she's like, look, I need to run a quick errand. And can you grab a table? I'll be right back. And of course, I knew it. I could, like, I swore I wrote the script myself. Because of course, Eva walks in. I said, like, as soon as Kat walks out that door, Eva's gonna walk in that mother. And it happened. Oh, Jesus Christ. Didn't I tell y'all last episode that this was getting ready to transpire? I just didn't know it was gonna happen so quickly. Call me now for your free reading. I'm just saying. All right. So Danny is still at Bill's house arguing about his moral compass. So Bill finally says, Danny, I don't know what else you want me to tell you. And I was kind of feeling the same way. He was like, look, what's done is done. It can't be undone. And so she's like, look, stay out my family business. And so Bill tells her, it wasn't obvious he wanted out when I left you. And he tells her, don't let the door hit you. And Danny is so shocked that she married such a soulless man. And I said, well, you kept going. You went low, and he said, I am going to hell. Then Haley comes from around the corner after Danny leaves, and she questions, did they argue this loud when they were married? And Bill apologizes, and all Haley wants to know is he's serious about staying out of Dupree's family business. And he tells her that he's only concerned about Naomi and Chelsea. And Haley wants to know, he's definitely done with Danny and her family. We know that that's bull, right? And that's proven by the end of this episode. We hop back over to Offrey Jeans. Naomi is trying to convince, she's on the phone with her mother. She's trying to convince Danny to leave Bill alone and try to stay out of the drama. Danny tells her it's a little too late for that. And, the Duprees don't run or hide. So Naomi said, well, you yelling at daddy don't really benefit anybody. Finally, DNA. Warning. DNA show up just in time for Jacob to arrive after dropping June off at the hotel. So Naomi is hopeful that June will, begin to like her new accommodations. Then Jacob gets a phone call in the middle of the lunch, and June has already left the hotel. So he takes Derek with him to try to find her. In between time, Ashley wants to know how Naomi is handling the, newest Dupree scandal. And so Naomi tells her, Ted and Nicole were such an ideal couple that she's starting to wonder, like, what that means for her and Jacob. And Ashley just, shrugs it off like, girl, don't worry about it. You and, Jacob are meant for each other. So they bring June back to Offrey Jeans, who, of course, she's disgruntled as usual. And Jacob says that she refuses to go back to the hotel. And June is insisting on staying under the bridge. And again, I'm a little irritated because I really think they about to let this lady come live in their house. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reaching. But Andre is telling Ted that he thinks he and Nicole should be able to work through this challenge. And Ted isn't sure. He doesn't know how to get things back on track. And Andre says that he might, and he tells him to keep the faith. So he leaves. And then Ted gets another knock at the door. And it's Martin looking all scary and unhinged. Okay. So he accuses Ted of picking up another habit, drinking, and asks if that's something else he's been hiding from them. Ted says nothing. Ted just welcomes the tongue lashing from Martin, as he should. So he goes on about his lies, has destroyed his mother. He goes in about Ted lying to them for years, and like, oh, and we're just supposed to forgive you. And Martin says, but even if I could, how am I supposed to know who to forgive when I don't know who you are? I said, well, gave a very strong argument there, brother. So Martin then goes down memory lane of the father he used to know, but tells Ted he's no longer that person. He said, I was named after Dr. Martin Luther King, but I idolized you, and said, for what? He feels it was all smoke and mirrors. And Ted is just silent. And Martin says, look, I'm here. I'm ready to hear any lie that you want to tell me. So Ted tells Martin that all his mistakes have nothing to do with the love that he has for, his family, him, Kat, and Nicole. He said they mean everything to him, and he does apologize. He does try to like step closer to Martin, but you could see Martin take a step back. And he said, look, I promise you, I'm going to do everything to try to get this family back. And Martin walks out, and, Ted tells him that he loves him, and you could tell that it hurts Martin a little bit, but he's still being hard and, angry. And then we go back over to Uptown, and so Smitty gets a text and runs out, but we don't know where he's going yet. Eva sits down at a table alone, but not far from Tomas. And what's so funny, because anytime we see Uptowns, it's half empty. So you very much well could have sat somewhere that wasn't. If you wanted to be by yourself and isolate yourself, you absolutely could have, Eva. Anyway, I ain't gonna blame you. You're not the problem in this one. It's him. It's him. I don't like him no way. Y'all, birds of a feather flock together. Ain't that what they say? So then, of course, he goes over there to sit with her. Now, mind you, last episode I told you he ain't promised Kat nothing, because he won't shit anyway. And actually, but in the beginning of this scene, I was actually riding for Tomas. I said, get her, get her. And then, yeah, towards the end, I said, see, this niggas ain't shit. Okay, I'm sorry. So he goes over to sit with her, and Eva doesn't want him to, but Tomas is insistent. Tomas tells her that, she surprised him and he would never have mistaken her for the malicious type. So Eva's like, look, most people just avoid me, but you went out of your way to sit down and say hateful things. And she said, it hurts even more coming from you. Tomas says, she might have had reasons for what she did, but he thought he had gotten to know her and didn't realize she had it in her to throw a monkey wrench in people's lives without a second thought. So at this point, he was like, okay, you know what? I'm getting ready to leave. And he stops her. He's like, no, I want to understand your evilness. I want to understand what makes you so vengeful and bitter. Help me understand. He didn't say all that. I'm just adding that, add. And Tomas tells her, don't go. And he said, maybe I did misinterpret things. And he says, you can talk to me. Okay. Eva says, so she starts telling him, like, look, I knew what I did was wrong. I was trying to protect my mom and my dad. And then obviously Nicole got thrown in the mix, and I care about all three of them. And yes, I do realize that I could have stopped it if I would have realized it sooner. Even though I think you bye. Okay. I'm not buying what you're selling, but okay. But anyway, so she's like, I need to go, because she's starting to get all emotional or whatever. And Tomas grabs her hand. Meanwhile, Kat sees this whole thing. And I believe it was my boy Tasan. Shout out to Tasan. Yeah. I think we were both hoping, as much as I hate that Kat might be hurt, I needed her to see this before she gave up and throws. Okay. Because Tomas doesn't deserve it. And Eva's vulnerable and weak. And I mean, so is Kat right now, but um yeah, she don't need to give up her virginity to that man because he definitely don't deserve it. And if Eva want to do whatever she want to do with her cuckoo, then that's her business. Okay. All right. So then we finally see that Smitty was summoned to Bill's house. Okay. And Smitty wants to know why the hell he's there. And so Bill tells him that, I heard you working as a reporter again, and I think that we could be useful to one another. And Smitty's like, no, I don't want to do nothing with you. I don't see us. No, I don't need a legal team. They have that at the paper. So no. So Bill tells Smitty, what I need you to do is tell your husband, Martin, that we're all on the same team. And so Smitty is like, what are you talking about? And he said, he'll know what it means. Just, he'll know. And I was like, Smitty going to start digging. Bill set that up. Bill set that up. Watch what I tell you. Because he knows Smitty is nosy. He's a reporter. And Martin's not going to tell him. And he knows something has been going on. Bill set that up for that secret to come out. When it comes out, please say Trees, season 1, episode 49. You said that. Okay. I'm just playing, just throwing my hook out there as usual. So now Andre goes by to see Nicole and tells her, he hates what she's going through. And then he ends up saying that he wishes he would have told her before. So Nicole was like, oh, so you knew about the affair. And I was like, this is so not smart. And he admits that Ted told him, but said that, I ain't know nothing about Eva. He said he caught Ted at a vulnerable moment and he needed somebody to confide in. So Nicole points out, of course, he's so busy confiding and doing other things with people other than his wife. And I was like, well, them Dupree girls be having some points. He tries to explain that, Ted didn't know and he was so torn up inside. And then she looks at Andre and so she's like, oh, so you knew and didn't tell me. He's like, well, what was I supposed to do? I was in between a rock and a hard place. And he's like, do you forgive me? And so she's like, you know what? You shouldn't have been put in that position. It's not your fault. And she's like, every hour, I'm just learning more about this man. And she's like, there's a stranger in my house. Yeah, Andre tells her that he really does love her and, regrets keeping it from her. He lets her know that he would have Ted definitely would have handled things differently if he knew he had a child. And Nicole says, I hear you, but I don't really know what to do with that. And I was kind of here with Nicole. So then Vanessa walks in and interrupts, and she's there to comfort her. And we see Nicole, and I think this is where Carlton's gonna come in. We see Nicole telling Vanessa, oh, I should have lived more like you. Maybe if I was out there running these streets and not giving my heart to one person, then it can't be broken. And I was like, well, get that lick back. Hey, get that lick back. Okay, I'm sorry. That's not even a song. I just made that up. But anyway. And so and Vanessa's like, nah, girl. She's like, if I was in your marriage, I would have been Miss Monogamy too. So Nicole tells her, look, I'm tired. I need some time alone. So before she leaves, she's like, oh, can you leave the door ajar? And I knew when she said it, I knew it. Just like I knew Eva was going to walk through that door when Kat walked out. I absolutely knew if she left that door open, Leslie was going to walk through it. 5 guys. I don't know. I ain't know if she was going to show up as Sherry, Anna, Lulu, but I knew it was going to be her. And wasn't it? Wasn't it? Okay, the nerve. So Nicole is like laid out on the couch and she's like, oh, just go ahead and leave the thing in the doorway. And Leslie walks in. And so she's like, how the hell did you get beyond the gates? And she's like, because I got the codes from Eva. And I said, see, Eva, you still doing harm right here. So Nicole says, you know what, I'm going to have them change, but I need you to get the hell out of my house. Leslie tells her that, look, I know you hate me, but I think you want to hear me out because it's something that you need to know. And I said, no, there's nothing. And Nicole, don't sit there and listen to the bullshit. Call security, get her escorted out your house. It ain't safe. It ain't safe. Okay. Now, Vernon realizes that Anita's upset and she's still having a hard time accepting what Ted did. So Vernon tries to speak up for Ted and says, "You look, he didn't know about the baby, but Anita is focused on the fact, look, he got another woman pregnant while married to our daughter. Nugget." That's literally what my notes say. Nugget. Anita can't move past that outside baby. And I know a few of y'all have been in the comments and said that y'all think Haley, some of y'all have hinted that you think Vernon has an outside baby. And it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, this sounds terrible. He's a politician. So I'm sure he's traveled. I'm sure it wouldn't surprise me. And I'm sure Bill has, it would not surprise me. And I just keep that little nugget. Because it seemed like all these Dupree women go from Kat to the only person that ain't having problems right now is Chelsea. And maybe because she giving her heart to multiple people too. But yeah, no, I don't know, y'all. Maybe Mr. Perfect. And you know they keep saying, "Oh, your relationship is so perfect," and da-da-da. Maybe Mr. Perfect ain't so perfect. That's all I'm saying. I wouldn't want to put that on him, but at this point, it's the soaps. We getting deep in the mess now, and everybody is falling out. So I wouldn't be surprised. All right, so then Danny comes in and tells her parents that she just went to see Bill and let him have it. And they're like, "That's really stupid. And why did you do that? I don't think that's a good idea." And she said, "Well, I said what I needed to say and I'm done with him." And she's like, "But why can you go and, talk about giving Ted a piece of your mind, but I can't confront him?" And because, of course, I'm sure she's thinking about what Bill said. And so Danny said that basically she plans on, based off of what Nicole went through, she plans on making a lot of people pay. Then, of course, we see Ted. He gets a mysterious knock at the door. And of course, it's Danny, ready to confront her scumbag brother in law on behalf of her sister. She tells him that Nicole is too nice to tell him what a piece of trash he is. And so she's there to do it for him. And she said she tells him to prepare for the worst because it's coming. And I said, "Woo! Alrighty then." So yeah, y'all. That was Friday's episode of Beyond the Gates. Yeah, let me know what you thought. Drop in the comments as y'all always do. If you haven't already, please make sure that you've hit the like button. Make sure that you guys comment. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell. And make sure that you're following us on all the platforms. That's the TikTok, the X, the IG, and the Facebook. And you guys really are listening. Like, I just love it. I love it. I love people who know the assignment and listen. Okay. We're active listeners over here. All right. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you. And y'all have a great, safe, and like I said, everybody enjoy your Mother's Day weekend. For those, I want to just say, for those who, mothers are no longer with them or here with us, I know it may be a harder day. And just take care of yourself and take care of yourself. And mothers, you take care of yourself as well. And hopefully your kids, your partners, or somebody is spoiling you. But y'all have a great Mother's Day weekend. Bye-bye.